All right, first of all, in the Memento package, let's add a new class. We call this editor state. Currently, we need only a single field in this class. So private string content. It would be nice to initialize this field from the constructor. So we can press Alt and Enter and add a constructor with a parameter. There you go. So we have a constructor. This constructor has a single parameter. And in the body of this constructor, we initialize this field with the value of this parameter. Pretty simple. Now, I would prefer to declare this field as final. This will make sure that once we initialize this field, we cannot accidentally change it in our program. So this will add robustness to our code. Now, we also need a getter here for reading the value of this field later on. So Alt and Enter and create getter for content. That's it. We're done with this class. Now let's go to our editor class. Here we need two new methods, create state and restore. So public editor state, create state. When we call this method, the editor will save its current state inside an editor state object and return it. So return new editor state, and here we pass the value of the content field. Now let's create the restore method. That is pretty easy. Public void restore. We give it a state object. And here we set the content field to state.getContent. As simple as that. The last piece of the puzzle is the history class. So in this package, let's add a new class. We call it history. Here we can use a stack or a list. I don't want this course to be very Java specific, so I'm going to go with a list. Private list of editor state. Now, what is going on here? Well, this list is an interface that is declared in the java.util package. So first we need to import it, otherwise the compiler doesn't recognize it. We can press Alt and Enter, and IntelliJ imported it on the top. So import java.util.list. Now, this list interface is a generic interface, which means we can use it to build a list of different types of objects. We can have a list of strings, we can have a list of integers, a list of editor states. So with these angle brackets, we specify the type of objects we want to store in this list. In this case, we want to store editor state objects, okay? Now, let's call this field state and set it to new array list. What is going on here? Well, I told you that this list is an interface that is declared in the java.util package. In this package, we have a class called ArrayList that implements this interface. So we're programming to an interface. Because the ArrayList class might have other methods that we are not interested in, we only need the functionality that is declared in the list interface, okay? Now, here we need two methods, push and pop. Public void push. It takes an editor state object. And here we call states.add state. This will add the state object at the end of the list, okay? Now, public editor state pop. Here we need to calculate the index of the last item in this list. That is very easy. So var last index. Now the list interface has a method called size. This returns the number of items in this list. Now the index of the first item in the list is 0. So to get the index of the last item, we should get the size and reduce it by 1. Now we get the last item, or last state. That's better. States.get. With this, we can get an item at a given index. So let's get this item. Then we need to remove it from this list. So we call states.remove and pass the last state object. And finally, we return the last state from this method. That is our history class. Now, let's put all of this together and see the undo mechanism in action. So here in the main method, first we create an editor object. Next, we create a history object. So var history equals new history. Here we set the content to A. At the same time, we want to save the state in the history. So we call editor.createState. This will return the current state. And we'll add it to our history. So we call history.push with this object. As simple as that. One more time. We set the content to B, and right after that, we save the state in the history. Next, we set the content to C. Now here we can undo. So we call history.pop. This will return the previous state, and then we'll give this to our editor. So we say, hey, editor, restore yourself with this state, like this. Now, if we print the current state of the editor, it should be B. Take a look. So print editor.get content. Take a look. We get B. If you undo one more time, we're going to see A. So let's duplicate this line. Now run. There you go. So this is how we implement the Memento pattern.